The insanity of this moment cannot be understated. Donald Trump has enacted wartime authority during peacetime and is already using these powers to subvert the rule of law to further his own agenda. On March 15th, Donald Trump enacted the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, which grants him sweeping authority to detain and deport people. Let's take a look at what the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 is, how it's been used in the past, and how it is currently being used to ignore the rule of law and due process. So, the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 is a wartime authority that allows the president to detain or deport the natives and citizens of an enemy nation. The law permits the president to target these immigrants without a hearing and based only on the country of birth or citizenship. So, this law has been enacted 3 times before. Once during the War of 1812, during the 2 World Wars, and has not been enacted outside of those 3 major conflicts in the United States. So it's quite strange that the Trump administration has enacted this power. Ultimately, it is Congress who decides whether or not the United States is at war. The president may invoke the Alien Enemies Act in times of declared war or when a foreign government threatens or undertakes an invasion or predatory incursion against the US. So, how it's being used now is completely separate from how it is intended to be used. So this is the most important part of this article. So, as the Supreme Court and past presidents have acknowledged, the Alien Enemies Act is a wartime authority enacted and implemented under the war power. When the Fifth Congress passed the law and the Wilson administration defended it in court during World War I, they did so on the understanding that non-citizens with connections to a foreign belligerent could be treated as prisoners of war under the rules of war under the law of nations. So, what this is saying is that it is exclusively a wartime power acknowledged by the Supreme Court and previous administrations. This is where the Trump administration has completely upended the entire norm of the situation. Today, some anti-immigration politicians and groups urge a non-literal reading of invasion and predatory incursion so that the Alien Enemies Act can be invoked in response to unlawful migration and cross-border narcotics trafficking. These politicians and groups view the Alien Enemies Act as a turbocharged deportation authority, but their proposed reading of the law is at odds with centuries of legislative, presidential, and judicial practice, all of which confirm that the Alien Enemies Act is a wartime authority. Invoking it in peacetime to bypass conventional immigration law would be a staggering abuse. This article was written in October of 2024, and yes, a staggering abuse indeed, and we have already seen the consequences of that abuse. This is an article from ABC News. The title, Trump Administration Ignores Judge's Order to Turn Deportation Planes Around. So, the Trump administration has declared war on a Venezuelan gang called Tren de Aragua, and they are using this justification to deport Venezuelan citizens without convicting them of any crimes or without being able to actually go before a court judge and prove that they are part of this gang activity or have any ties to the Tren de Aragua gang in Venezuela. So, let's read. President Donald Trump's administration made a calculated decision to ignore a judge's directive to turn around 2 flights containing hundreds of alleged Venezuelan gang members. Sources familiar with the matter told ABC. So, this is a direct order from a district judge to the Trump administration saying you cannot deport these people unlawfully without due process. And the Trump administration has ignored that. And their justification for ignoring that is actually a little insane. So this is a quote from the judge's order. "You shall inform your clients of this immediately. Any plane containing these folks that is going to take off or is in the air needs to be returned to the United States. However that's accomplished, turning around the plane or not embarking anyone on that plane. This is something that you need to make sure is complied with immediately." So, the Trump administration's response. However, top lawyers and officials in the administration made the determination that since the flights were over international waters, the order did not apply. And here's another example. The White House press secretary claimed that they did not refuse to comply with the court order. However, there is a separate example of a doctor being deported. This is from the New York Times. "Brown University professor is deported despite a judge's order." This is from earlier in... this article is from today. So, a kidney transplant specialist and professor at Brown University Medical School has been deported from the United States, even though she has a valid visa and a court order temporarily blocking her expulsion. So again, the Trump administration is using the Alien Enemies Act to subvert the judicial system in the United States. And these two cases are the first time that we have seen the Trump administration intentionally try to ignore court orders using these wartime powers. This is an unprecedented attack on the rule of law by the sitting president of the United States. The abuses of the Trump administration are unprecedented. To enact wartime powers without Congress declaring war is... it's unprecedented. No president has ever held this much authority without Congress or the judicial system being able to keep them in check. This is why we have systems of checks and balances to keep powers from overreaching their bounds. And Donald Trump is using this act specifically to subvert the rule of law so that he can enact his agenda faster and without having to go through the judicial system to do so. It's insane. If you like this video, stick around for part 2, where we're going to talk a little bit more about Donald Trump's assault on free speech. And if you are as outraged as I am, leave me a comment down below. I would love to chat with you guys about it.